Hey, everybody. Welcome to Last Week from the Table for January 12th, 2021. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. So, have you ever had one of those weeks where the projects that you're trying to do, things just seem to really go well? It's kind of the week that I had this past week. Things kind of just sort of fell into place with the projects, and they went pretty well. I'm not going to lie. Um, so, from that standpoint, personally, it wasn't a bad week. Let's go ahead and get into our discussion of what happened in the 3 game sessions that I run as actual play D&D games, Thursday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. Here we go. All right, Thursday night we are playing the Sword Coast Chronicles, and by the way, you can look on Roll20 for the Sword Coast Chronicles, and that game is now recruiting for players. We had a change at the beginning of the year. One of our players had a schedule change, not able to be with us anymore. So we are recruiting to replace that player. And you can go on to Roll20, look for the Sword Coast Chronicles. It's actually Sword Coast Chronicles Part 2 now. I had to rename it because of the fact that the storyline of the campaign goes into different campaign arcs, and so Sword Coast Chronicles Part 2 is what you will look for in the Roll20. This past Thursday, they were finishing up, mopping up after the incident at Scarlet Moon Hall. As we know from the past few weeks, there was this big fight there between people that were, apparently part of some fire cult, fighting against people that were probably with some sort of earth cult. And they got a little bit more insight into that this week when when guards from the town of Red Larch showed up. If you'll recall, a couple of sessions ago, when the earthquake happened, the party had a skills challenge where they got a lot of non-combatants away and said, run. And some people said, oh, we know where Red Larch is. We're going to run to Red Larch. Well, those people now finally came back with members of the town guard. And all that's left of the earth cultists and the fire cultists are some corpses and a big, huge pile of ash. They did find the corpse of Elazar Dryflagon, and the party had I think they did a deception roll of 28. It's a really good deception roll to disguise themselves as a member of the fire cult, and then they did speak with dead. And so they they wound up getting some information out of the corpse of Elazar Dryflagon. And yes, they indeed found out that he was a member of a fire cult, and that down below this tower, there's a temple dedicated to elemental fire. So the party was like, I guess we're going to head down to that temple and see about clearing it out. Now, the townsfolk said, all right, or the guards said, just go down there and scout it out and come back and tell us what you find. There's only 3 of you. We don't want you getting killed. We will send word to Waterdeep that we need some help So you go about doing that, and we'll get some reinforcements. So the party's like, fine, they'll go ahead and do that. And they got down there and they ran into some hobgoblins right at the begin, right when they got into the uh, beginning of this area. And that's where we ran out of time for the session. So we will pick it up on Thursday night with a fight against some hobgoblins, and then we'll see how much they decide they want to explore. Um, Again, if you're interested in joining that campaign as a player, go to Roll20. Try to do it by tonight. Um, this is Tuesday, so try to do it by tonight because I will need to get with you and you will need to have time to roll up a character and level it up to level 6. And we don't want to wait until 8 o'clock on Thursday night to waste time while you get a character approved and get it leveled up to level 6 because you're not going to just roll up a level 6 character on your own and present it to me and say, hey, I want to play this. No, 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 no. You're going to come to me, you're going to pitch a concept, we're going to figure out everything. You're going to roll it up from scratch and you're going to level it up with my supervision. Well, I'm not going to sit there and tell you what you can and can't do, but I'm going to give you the parameters and then you're going to do what we agreed. So that's the way. That's the way it'll work if you want to join that game. So come on and join us if you wish. If you want to watch and see what happens, twitch.tv/Gallibond Thursday night at 8 p.m. Then on Saturday, we have the Lost Mine of Original D&D. We had our full complement of players back on Saturday night, and we started a new arc in the wake of the um, dealing with the red brands. Now, there was one little coda for the red brands, and that was what are we going to do with Grista, the surly female dwarf that ran the Sleeping Giant Inn. Well, the party decided they'd had about enough of Grista, so they went over there. They didn't beat her up too badly, but they captured her and they bound her and they bought an old nag and they put a pole on the horse with a carrot out in front of it. And they sat Grista on the horse, all bound up, facing backwards. And now the horse was, you know, slapped on the rump and set out of town towards the mountains. Um, with Grista on the back, and Grista was also wearing a big mask that made her look like some kind of big, huge clown. And it had like some horse dung stuffed into the eye holes of the mask so she couldn't see where she was going. Yeah. Yeah, she didn't treat them very well, so they weren't very pleasant with her either. And so that took a long time to get all that straightened out because there were many details that they wanted to get just right with that with that particular dealing with Ms. Grista. So sent her off on her way, and last they saw of her, she was headed off towards the hills on the back of this old nag. Then they decided they were going to go look at the remains of um, the old owl well. And the old owl well, when they got there, they found that's a remains of a tower, and there is a tent in the courtyard of the tower. So they went to the tower, or they went to the tent, and they look inside, and they found a guy, a wizard. And Amira, the magic user, she consulted her knowledge of history and recognize that a tattoo the guy has on his head marks him as a member of an ancient culture uh, that is known for necromantic magic. And he's kind of a creepy guy out here all by himself, so they're thinking, oh, maybe there's necromancers. Um, but they had a conversation with him, and it turns out that they had some information that he was interested in. And um, when they gave him this information, lo and behold, he turns around and he gives them a scroll. Oh, okay. Well, all right. And then he asked them a question about the Banshee. Well, they've got it on their list to go see the Banshee. So, well, okay, maybe we'll go find out what he wants to know from the Banshee and then decide what we're going to do with this guy later. So they um, got there, had an interaction with the guy. Uh, it was kind of a fun session in that way, very lighthearted with all the stuff they were doing with Krista, and then a little bit of a mystery what's going on, but so far all they know is they're talking to the guy in the tent. And he's given him stuff and told him he'll give him more stuff if he can bring back the answer from Agatha the Banshee, where they are planning to go next. So, I'm not sure whether they're going to try to deal with this guy now, whether they're going to go off and talk to the Banshee and then come back, or exactly what they're going to do. So, you can join me Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern, for the Lost Mine original D&D, and we can find out together what the parties are going to do, or what the party members are going to do. That is again twitch.tv/Gallibond. And in our Planeswalking Walker of Waterdeep campaign, yesterday they had a big fight. They are in Kamigawa, and the party was at the Okina village, which is where the Bushido, the outcast monks that used to live in Takanama Swamp, um, they are there. And at the tail end of the previous session, the old general that had been driven out of Igon City, or Igon Town, he shows up. And of course, one of the NPCs that's been traveling with the party was a bandit who used to be a member of the general's army until Lord Kanda kicked the general out and called for his arrest, and so all of his soldiers just ran away too. And some of them wound up becoming bandits, like Zhang, the guy that was with the party. So Zhang is now going to stay in the village. They left the village along with two fishmongers to go to a village where the Kitsune, the fox people, live. And on the way, they got ambushed by more kami. And this time, they found out these kami, they've got some weird abilities. They have some very interesting synergies in the way they work. First of all, there were some spellcasting kami that could cast spells all the way across the battlefield. Really long range spells. So those guys were out of reach most of the battle. And one of them opened the battle by dropping a fireball on the entire party as the very first thing in the battle. Um, some of the other kami, they have abilities that when they take lethal damage, some of their spellcasting allies regain spell slots. Other ones have abilities that when they hit you, they can cause you to potentially be stunned, or they can drain you of spell slots if they hit you. And of course, there's saving throws involved in all of that. But um, the party was having pretty good luck hitting, and they were having pretty bad luck making saving throws. So it made for a really interesting thing, and it was touch and go for a while. But is one of these things I try to make these fights where they're going to be a challenge, but I don't want them to be TPKs because as a DM, getting a TPK, yeah, well, okay, you've told this story and you brought it all the way to this point, and then it's just going to end with all of them dying. Okay, especially if it's like some fight out in the wilderness. You don't want to have that happen. No, maybe if they're faced off against a big bad boss monster, and they're kind of at a critical tipping point of the story arc. Okay, maybe you hit them with something that potentially could cause a TPK. Because otherwise, it's like, okay, well, how would you explain a whole nother party of um, adventurers picking up the story from where these guys left off? It just wouldn't feel right. At least it doesn't feel right to me. So, they have not yet reached the um, Kitsune Village, but I'm very excited for them to do so because one of our players has actually created a map of the village for me. And it's a multi-layer map that has some really cool kind of effects that we can do on the virtual tabletop. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with the rest of the players. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys too. So you can come and see that map and find out what they learned from the Kitsune next Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, on twitch.tv/Gallibond. And that, friends, is going to do it for last week from the table. I have been DM Gallibond. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that you will come back next week. And remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, click the post notification bell, and look in the description to find out how you can follow me on social media and where you can find all of the live streams that I do over on that there Twitch channel we just talked about. All right, everyone. Good night.